talk is called Psychedelics in a Post-Truth World. And in the blurb for this talk, I asked this kind of pithy question at the end, can psychedelics still change the world? Which is a little cheesier than I like, but I wanted to get people in. So now I'm going to reframe the question a little bit. And the question I kind of want to look at is, are psychedelics still aiding humanity's psycho-spiritual evolution? And if so, how? So to kind of answer that, I wanted to begin maybe 40, 50 years ago, perhaps the last cultural moment where psychedelics could be argued to have played a major role in the way people related to each other and themselves, and the way the culture started to move. So late 60s, or perhaps starting in the mid 60s on. And that gave us, and I'm not saying psychedelics were the only driver, even the key driver in this, although many people would argue that they were. But a lot of amazing things came out of that. A lot of really cultural watersheds that really shifted things. So civil rights movement, anti-war movement, a lot of Eastern spirituality started changing people's perceptions of their own egos in relation to the environment, for example, with dubious success, I think, which was the kind of topic of talk I did last time. Social justice and environmentalism, all really amazing things. And I'm really interested in spiral dynamics. I'm really interested in seeing if you can map our psycho-spiritual development, how we conceive of ourselves. And a model I really like is the spiral dynamics model. And spiral dynamics, we all start as human beings at a kind of different stages, starting from a very egoic, like a 2-year-old, or Donald Trump, we're going to be talking about later as well, starting at an incredibly egoic stage where you are the center of the universe. And as you grow and evolve, and you could argue as societies grow and evolve, we reach more and more inclusive and empathetic and integrated states. So as you move up a stage, you integrate the stage below you, but you're at a new stage. So you're more grown up, effectively. It's a process of growing up, just like we all grow up. And this stage at the top of, this isn't the full spiral dynamics, but the stage at the top, green. So green is kind of the stage that was coming out during the 60s, and the stage that most of us will really kind of connect with, and most liberal people will connect with as well. And green is described as the kind of community/egalitarian. So a few points from the spiral dynamics people themselves. The human spirit must be freed from greed, dogma, and divisiveness. Feeling, sensitivity, and caring supersede cold rationality. Excuse me for the strange typing there. Reaching decisions through reconciliation and consensus processes. Getting together to discuss things and find a way to kind of move forward. And also a refreshing of spirituality, harmony, and a focus on kind of enriching human development. So, all good stuff, sure. Most of us think. I certainly do. And in many ways, we have, in a sense, won the culture wars until really recently, which is why I'm giving this talk. This would have been unthinkable. This kind of really free display of just joy and sexuality and identity would have been unthinkable in like the 1930s. I don't know what would have happened to this guy, but it would not have been good. So, and it really did look like, great. We've kind of, great, everything is becoming more kind of fair and empathetic. And then this happened. And Brexit happened. Yeah. No, undoctored. This is actual figure. No, it is doctored, yeah. So, this is kind of a wake-up call, I think. And a lot of thinkers have been looking at this as an incredibly interesting wake-up call to think, well, perhaps the green level isn't quite as evolved as we might think it is, right? There's something missing, because how could this happen? If it's that inclusive, how come this happened? And how come Brexit happened? And how come I could give you many lists? We've all been alive over the last couple of years, so don't need to go into that. And really, a lot of thinkers I respect, and myself as well, I am convinced that it's due to postmodernism. Postmodernism being the kind of dominant academic way of seeing the world for certainly the last 30 years in university campuses, right? So the tenets of postmodernism, it's a very tricky one. I remember studying postmodernism in university, and you never get a straight answer about what is postmodernism, ever, right? And that's very postmodern. It's like, right? So, but roughly, the tenets are there's no meta-narrative. There's no grand truth that can unite everything. Doesn't exist. There's only an endless interwoven series of kind of mini narratives and language games and different players, all in this kind of shifting power dynamic. It's kind of psychedelic in its own way, but for one thing, which I'll go into. And everything's context dependent. Everything's context dependent. Nothing is a kind of ideal that sits above the context it's in. And any claim to truth is suspect and probably oppressive. You know? And this is a broad spectrum. A lot of postmodernists have different ideas, but a broad spectrum of crucially where I think it's gone into the culture. Good things about postmodernism as a cultural phenomenon, in my opinion, are a greater awareness of structural inequality, which is key, an awareness of power and privilege, which is also key, and a recognition of marginalized voices. This stuff it was around, but not nearly as much. And this is all beautiful stuff that we must hold on to. Bad things about postmodernism as a cultural phenomenon. This is kind of my favorite bit. So, a refusal to see natural hierarchies, a kind of a fear of hierarchy in any form, and an idea that hierarchy itself is naturally oppressive, when it's a bit like saying it's oppressive to be 8 years old rather than 4 years old, in my opinion. There's a lot of, it doesn't quite sit with me. There's a lot of language policing, there's suppression of free speech, there's a lot of shaming that happens as well. There's this focus on identity politics, above all else, has kind of created unexpected monsters for postmodernists. So the deplorables, as Hillary Clinton referred to them as, Donald Trump supporters, there's really no attempt to kind of see the world through their eyes. They're deplorables. They're not, they don't fit into this kind of worldview. And so any kind of valid concerns they might have, they're not really listened to at all. It's actually quite oppressive. Yeah.
Can you give an example of a natural hierarchy?
Yeah, a natural hierarchy. Lions eating zebras, for example. That's a natural hierarchy. There's many. I think also in practical terms, there's a hierarchy of kind of skill set. This kind of fear of experts that really came around. That's a really interesting phenomenon for me, because if someone studied neuroscience for 20 years and they say they have an opinion on neuroscience, while certainly it's important, I think, to not take any truth as gospel, I still would have a respect for the hierarchy implicit in the fact that they know something I don't, in the same way I would if I went to get my car fixed and didn't know. So there's it's that kind of hierarchy. I'll cover it afterwards as well. And there's also, I think, postmodernism is incredibly contradictory. There's no truth except for the truth that there's no truth, is effectively what the philosophy says, I think. And there's also kind of what's been called an aperspectival madness. If there's no truth, if nothing is true, and there's only different layers of everything, you go kind of mad. Because what is the North Star? What is the thing that we are kind of aiming for? And that is a really interesting thing. And I also think it's bullshit, obviously. So I'm really interested in this. So Ken Wilber wrote an interesting piece after the election of Donald Trump. And he argued the election of Donald Trump is an evolutionary self-correction that has been decades in the making. This is quite controversial, Stanley. A backlash against the failure of the leading edge of consciousness, postmodernism and pluralism, or that green phase I was talking about, to acknowledge the lie underlying the progress they've pursued. That it's not equal, it's not consistent, and it doesn't make room for everyone. If it did make room for everyone, there wouldn't be deplorables, right? There wouldn't be people on Facebook saying, anyone who voted Brexit, I'm unfriending you, you're disgusting, whatever it might be. Raise your hand if you saw something like that in your social media filter bubble. Yeah, a lot of people, okay? I just certainly did as well. So what does that mean? So the next, in spiral dynamics, and I would stress that I see these as kind of models. I think they're useful models, things like spiral dynamics, but I think they are still models. But the next kind of phase of it is the integrative phase, the yellow, and there's phases above that as well. And yellow sees kind of life as a kaleidoscope of hierarchies, systems, and forms. The magnificence of existence is valued over material objects. Flexibility, spontaneity, and functionality have the highest priority. Differences, and this is the key thing, differences can be integrated into natural, interdependent flows. So I talked earlier about how each level integrates a level beneath it, and that being really key. So in order to move from green to yellow and to any stage, you can't skip it. You have to connect with the aspects of yourself that are inherent in the lower stages. You have to connect with the kind of 2-year-old inside you, a rampant egotist. You have to connect with your own inner dictator, your own inner sadist. All of these things, you cannot suppress them and kind of move away from them. And so the Russian doll thing is just an image to kind of, they're nested holons, they're called. They all contain one another. And so the cultural shadow, for me, raise your hand if you're familiar with the concept of the shadow in Jungian psychology. There's lots of people. So very briefly, the shadow is aspects of ourselves that we repress and say are not me, effectively. So they become an other within ourselves, and they eventually get projected outward onto the world outside. So if you're feeling anger, but you've told yourself, I'm not an angry person, passive aggression, you're pushing, or you also start to perhaps see everyone else as, why is everyone always angry all the time, when it's actually perhaps an unresolved aspect of the individual. And on this cultural level, what the green issue is, according to Wilber, is that it hasn't integrated the lower levels. So it hasn't integrated the more conservative, let's keep everything the same way kind of energy. It hasn't integrated a value-based system, nationalism, all of these different things where there's this huge struggle right now. It will never be resolved, in my opinion, if it's just like one side saying you guys are idiots, you're racists, you're whatever it is, and the other side being like, we feel disenfranchised, you don't understand us. What must happen is that the leading edge of culture has to integrate all of its own inner demons on a collective scale. Now, that's where we come back. Oh, I love that picture. Doesn't fit into the talk anymore, unfortunately. Oh, it does, yes. The shadow effectively creates a situation where if you haven't integrated your shadow, you're like a lemur wearing a business suit. You're pretending to be one thing when you're not, perhaps. So you pretend to be, we might, and I've done this, I pretend to be incredibly inclusive and but then actually quite judgmental about people who aren't like me, right? Or who aren't as educated as me, or see the world differently. So what's key is to strip the lemur, and to do that, that's copyrighted, by the way. I go back to the original question, are psychedelics still aiding humanity's psycho-spiritual evolution? Yes, or can they? Can they? I think they are, of course, but I think so much more could happen. Because I think we are at the leading edge, especially in the psychedelic community, and we navigate the inner worlds with these incredible tools. And we know that psychedelics can play a huge role in our growth as a species. But I don't think they can do it alone. Just like all the amazing therapists speaking this weekend would never claim that it's just the medicine alone that cures someone. It's the therapy that cures them with the medicine. So how do we apply that to our own inner work when we're just using psychedelic medicines for personal growth and self-actualization? Surely the same must apply, and I believe it does. That's why my partner and I teach Trip, Train, Integrate, which I'll go into in a moment. I just realized this picture came up, so I'm going to have to explain it. Why can't psychedelics do it alone? Because psychedelics can give you a peak mystical experience. They can give you all sorts of incredible experiences, but we always interpret a state at the stage we're at. So wherever we're coming into the trip from, however developed we are as a person, we're going to interpret it from there. So we must be continuously developing ourselves as we're tripping. I'm going to get rid of this picture now. There's another photo picture. So in order to do that, I believe you need a practice that combines different practices. Meditation is what we teach, and so we have a model called Train, Trip, Integrate, which is based on meditation, but also have now realized that needs to be expanded out to other types of work as well, because meditation allows you to be self-aware. It allows you to navigate in a non-judgmental way your own experience, and it's like the baseline, it's like the cup that holds all this other work within it. But there's also other practices, like primal scream therapy, for example. I'm just picking, literally, there's so many of them. It could be especially body work, being connected with the body, yoga practices, breath work, primal scream. I like men's work, I like kind of connecting with the polarity of being a man or the polarity of being a woman. So that, as a model, the whole reason to have a model like this, for me, is to go back to what I was just talking about, is that as a psychedelic community, we can be at the leading edge, really, really way beyond leading edge of cultural development, but we kind of, I think we need a roadmap just like the therapy community has a roadmap for these practices. And what it's all about really is empathy and integration. It's an empathy thing because in order to heal the rift that is kind of formed over the last, it's been a long time in the making, but really come to a head in the last couple of years, the big cultural rifts we have, they will not be healed by using the same attitude we had before they happened. They have to we have to connect with these energies and these different ways of seeing the world that are uncomfortable. It's shadow work. I think it's like collective shadow work. And to do that, it requires empathy. It cannot be done without empathy. It requires sitting with it. And it's a really human, it's not like the kind of fireworks of the kind of peak of a mystical experience. This is using psychedelics on a real human level to be really, really brutally honest with yourself and really, going down into yourself with the desire to, touch the darkness, see the things you don't want to see. And for me, the best psychedelic experiences and the worst at the same time are ones where I have a real recognition of what an asshole I am, Just really like, oh my God, what have I been? Oh, I was so wrong, I've been seeing the world in such a black and white way, and now I can see it's embarrassing. I think embarrassment is a fantastic feeling to go for with a psychedelic experience. If you're embarrassed, great, because then you can work on it and then come out of the trip and apply it to your life. And it's about being real. It's about, I think, being kind of grounded and connected and not kind of in the clouds where I've spent some time up there. It's amazing. It's great. But also it's about the kind of grounded human thing of bringing these lessons back into the world. And it's also, to loop it back to the beginning, it's about reclaiming truth and believing in something. I feel that our society doesn't really have this connection to a value that is higher than us. We have a few. We have like vague, freedom, and this thing as well. Oh, we like, this is, huh? The market, yeah, which is an incredibly disempowering, cold one as well. It's a really good point. So we have this kind of confusion, and that's really problematic. I think it's bad for your psychology as well. So reclaiming truth from postmodernism is something I'm really interested in. That there can be something that is true, that is something. There's a thing such as truth, absolutely key. And as I was writing this, I had the kind of flash last night. There's an incredible book by Peter Kingsley called Reality, which is about the pre-Socratic philosophers. It's astonishingly good. And it came to me last night that Parmenides, one of the pre-Socratic philosophers, is seen as the father of logic. But he actually received the gift of logic from a goddess, in a vision, which was arguably came about from a shamanic state. And she gave him logic as the way to get out of the chaos of uncertainty. And we are in this chaos of uncertainty. And logic was this gift, given to humanity, if you want to look at it in those terms, as a way towards just being able to be with each other and be able to see truth and be able to get along and cooperate. Because without logic, it's just chaos. It's absolute aperspectival madness is that phrase. So logic kind of leads to freedom. And yeah, just to kind of close off for brief questions before the next speaker. This is really important to me because I really do want to see the psychedelic community, all of us, be this leading edge. And I really think we can. And so I look forward to doing that together. And thank you.